Hey guys, I'm VMN and I've ranked up from bronze, yes bronze, all the way up to SSL. Now you might be thinking, how is that possible? How can some players rank up super fast or keep up with the constantly improving skill ceiling when you're struggling in the pits of elo hell for what feels like an absolute eternity? Many players who rank up insanely fast don't just get lucky.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god!
And there's actually a formula that you can use to replicate these results. The question isn't if you can rank up to SSL, but how you can rank up to SSL. That's exactly what I'm going to be breaking down for you today. How all these players, including myself, were able to rank up insanely fast so you can understand it and do it for yourself. Let's just jump straight into it. This is the in-depth guide on how to rank up the Supersonic legend. In order to explain this, we're first going to have to understand the fundamental principles behind ranking up. And this part is really important, so if you take anything away from this video, really make sure this is it. Now, it might trigger some people, but the reality is you're not the rank you want to be because you're simply not as good as you think you are. It's a tough reality, but you need to drop your ego because the only way you're going to rank up is through improvement. More importantly, you want to improve at the three main aspects of Rocket League. This is your mechanics, your game sense, and your mentality. To explain these, I'm going to use the analogy of the competitive ladder, as it's very fitting for competitive games. Take a look at this ladder. It has three main structural components which make it function. It has a pole on the left side. Let's name this mechanics. This includes things like your ground play and your aerial play. You have a pole on the right side. Let's name this game sense, which includes your rotation, positioning, decision making, and pretty much everything else under that bracket. And lastly, the bars going up the middle, let's call these your mentality. Now this refers to things like your ego, your mindset, teammates, and just having generally poor games. The key principle here is that you need to develop all three skills to progress up this ladder, or in this case, to the next rank. For some people, they might have mechanics built all the way up to champ, and their mentality built up to diamond. But if your game sense is stuck at silver, it's going to be extremely hard for you to rank up past silver or gold. But all of a sudden, if you manage to improve your game sense and improve it all the way up to a diamond level, you're going to automatically jump up 3 steps in the ladder, in this case 3 ranks, because the constraint that was actually holding you back has now been removed. You guys need to remember that your rank is not determined by your greatest strength, but instead by your greatest weakness. So if game sense is your greatest weakness, becoming more mechanically skilled will not help you rank up. Instead, you need to focus all of your attention on improving your game sense, which is holding you back. You can be extremely good at one aspect, but for you to consistently rank up and improve, you need to put all of your attention in towards developing your weakest link. And for the case of these players that actually rank up really fast and see multiple division increases, they normally have 2 parts of the ladder build up to a really high standard. So all they have to do is actually focus on just one skill, and once it's no longer the constraint, they're just able to skyrocket through the ranks. They shoot up super fast. Now you might be asking, well, what do I do and how can I actually improve now? Well, depending on whether it's mechanics, game sense, or mentality for you, I left timestamps in the video so you can skip to whichever part suits you best. Otherwise, let's begin by improving your mechanics, since it's probably the easiest to apply to most people, followed by game sense and then mentality later in the video. Your mechanics are essentially built up from 2 factors outside of playing. This is your warm-up and your micro-training. The first thing you should do, however, when you're looking to improve your mechanics is actually check your sensitivity and dead zones. I see so many low ranked players with absurdly high and low dead zones and sensitivities, which just baffles me. So please, this isn't Forza Horizon, you're not a Drift King, just tone it back and get something that's sensible. That said, there are many good ways to calculate your sensitivity and dead zone, but from my experience, I just recommend having your steering and aerial sensitivity set to the same number, and that's going to be somewhere between 1.3 and 1.6, which is kind of the general standard when it comes to pro play. As for your controller dead zone, somewhere between 0.03 and 0.1 is usually the sweet spot for most people. Now, once you've found a comfortable sensitivity, try not to change it and actually just stick with it so you can get progressively better with that sensitivity. Now that you've got a solid sensitivity, we can work on refining your mechanics through your warm-ups and your micro training. When it comes to building your mechanics, the first thing I'm going to look at is your warm-up routine. Contrary to what some people might tell you, having a well-structured warm-up routine is absolutely essential if you want to build that consistency and take your mechanics to that next level. There are three main options that you have when it comes to improving your mechanics. I would say that these are free play, custom training packs, and workshop maps. It's up to you which one you want to focus on the most, but I find the 10ms method, I call this a 10-minute split method, to be the best. This is pretty much a 30-minute warm-up routine where you have a 10-minute split in free play, a 10-minute split in custom training packs, and then a 10-minute split in a workshop map of your choice. This way you're warming up your general movement in free play, in-game scenarios and custom training, and then either a ground or aerial skill in a workshop map. After that, I'd personally run an unranked game myself just to bring all of that training together before jumping into competitive. An important tip for training your mechanics, guys, is make sure you prioritize your weakness in your warm-up. If you struggle with aerial mechanics, think about completing a custom training pack which focuses on aerial shots, and then a workshop map like Lethamir's Rings to solidify your aerial movements. Too many people mindlessly jump around in free play doing flip resets for hours, and these players are always the most hard stuck when it comes to mechanics. As for when you're finished playing for the day, I'd recommend leaving a small portion of time for a post-session micro training. Now this is essentially where you pick your weakest mechanic, or the most important one for you to learn at your rank, and then you're going to practice this alone for somewhere between 15 and 30 minutes. For you, this might be wall to air dribbles, and if that's the case, then load up the wall to air dribble custom training pack and practice the fundamental skill of wall to air dribbles for your post-session micro training. You'll start to find you consolidate your learning as you sleep, and the next day you're going to have improved that mechanic almost tenfold. So start implementing that 10ms, 10-minute split, warm-up, and post-session micro training, and I promise you that you're going to start seeing crazy improvements to your mechanics in absolutely no time. Alright, moving on to Gamesense. Now, Gamesense is an extremely broad idea which includes many concepts like rotations, shadowing, and pressuring. But in this video, I'm going to talk about the three most important concepts required to climb to Supersonic Legend. Now, I'd say these are your decision making, your rotation, and your team play. Alright, so let's start with your decision making. Now, this is where you decide things like whether you should challenge or go back, whether you should rotate or turn, whether you should go for the boost or you should keep pressuring. And you might not notice this, but you actually make hundreds of these decisions each game you play. So often these decisions can be very impactful, and a lot of the time they can be pretty bad as well. Having poor decisions is going to result in you getting scored on very often, and a lot of the time it's probably going to result in your teammate flaming you or voting to forfeit as well. So you might be asking, well, how exactly do I improve my decision making? Well, one of the best ways to improve your decision making, which you probably tell other people but don't do yourself, is actually learning from your mistakes by saving one of your replays and watching one of your games back. I can't stress enough how much this improves your game sense. When you're watching it back, think along the lines of, should I play less aggressive? Should I not commit on this dangerous challenge? Should I have rotated back to defend with my teammate? Or should I have shadowed more aggressively in order to prevent the opponents from actually getting a successful attack? Once you start picking up on your mistakes like this, you're going to stop making them. It really is that simple. Your brain's going to start to compute what is good and bad, and you're going to begin to manifest good habits in your games. Trust me, since everyone is too lazy to do this, if you actually take that little extra step, you're going to improve significantly faster than everyone else. Now, the only thing that might be better than learning from your game is learning from someone who is way better than you. The principle is pretty much the same as when you watch your own games. You want to take some notes and then you want to replicate what you're seeing. Now, these notes might be things like, when are they challenging? When are they going to rotate over applying pressure? When are they going for demos? These kind of things. The more notes you take, the more you're going to learn and the better you're going to become. Now, that is just a fact. Moving on to rotations. Now, this could be grouped into decision making, but I've decided it deserves its own category because of how important it really is in Rocket League. That said, here are three of the most important rotations to learn. Let's start with the long rotation. Now, this is the most common rotation where you go all the way back and fill up on that sweet boost. And I know every Rocket League player does this rotation, but the better you get, the less you should be doing it. Long rotations give up a whole lot of space and pressure on the pitch and ultimately put you and your team at a disadvantage if done incorrectly. The only time you should really be doing this is if you have no boost and your attack is completely dead. Secondly, we have the half rotation. This is the replacement for the long rotation when you become a bit higher ranked. Most of the time, good players will not go all the way back when they rotate, but will instead collect boost on their way back and then turn around about half a pitch's length away from the play. This allows you to get re-involved in the game, apply more pressure, play off your teammate, and ultimately it's going to lead to a lot more opportunities for you to score. Lastly, we have the third and last rotation. I call this the minimal rotation. This is a bit of a niche one, but more important for higher ranks. Sometimes you're going to want to turn and commit hard on your opponent before they get a play or a setup. Now, this is a super aggressive rotation. You usually pick up like 1 to 3 boost pads and then keep that aggression through a very minimal rotation. It can be very rewarding and very punishing depending on the scenario, so this is only to be learned by highly skilled players. Alright, now that we've gone over rotations, let's look at team play. Now, every game of Rocket League you play is a gamble. You might have a god on your team, or you might have a monkey. Regardless, team play isn't really what you think it is. I don't consider team play to be hitting crazy passes and insane duo plays. Instead, it's about being in the best position to play off of your teammate and also creating opportunities which can be played off of. When it comes to team play, I'm thinking about 3 main things: playing time, possession via distance, and demos. You'll notice that these 3 things don't actually involve you and your teammate, but instead creating opportunities for your teammate. Playing time is super important. This is where you create time for your teammate to get a reset, and by reset I mean allowing them to collect boost and actually getting ready to play off of whatever you're doing. If your teammate is just committed, you can't just throw yourself at the ball afterwards. You need to actually make a play which buys time for them to rotate and prepare. Think about getting multiple touches or slowing down the play to allow this to happen. Now, the second team play aspect is called possession via distance. Now, this is a little bit more obscure, but probably one of the most important team play skills to learn. Now, whenever you're hitting the ball, it should be towards where your teammate is playing. Taking a 50-50, make sure the ball ends up close to your teammate. If you're clearing in defense, clear the ball towards your teammate. If you don't do this, you're just passing to your opponents and you're going to get scored on. It's it's not that complicated. The last aspect of team play that we want to talk about here is demos and bumps. Demos and bumps are crucial when it comes to getting good pressure and likewise alleviating it. The best way to work with demos is to look for opportunities where your teammate has a strong play and you can go and destroy your opponents as they try to defend. Even if you don't bump them, you're making it so much easier for your teammate to score as they're going to be jumping around and concentrated on you. Also, when you're rotating back, demo your opponents as they're attacking. It's a very quick way to end their attack and save your teammate in defense. Alright, the last aspect of ranking up is improving your overall mentality. Mentality is one of the most important concepts which isn't really talked about in much detail. So I'm going to give you 5 of the best mentality tips which are going to help you become the best Rocket League player that you can be. Number 1, drop your ego. You're not the best player and you're not even the best player in your rank. Drop the bullshit and realize that you actually kind of suck in comparison to the top players. As hard as it is to accept, the reason you are hard stuck is you and only you. Don't beat yourself up. Don't blame your teammates if you're losing. It's improvement and a focus on your own gameplay that actually matters. Number 2, long-term improvement. You need to start viewing all of your games as an opportunity to learn. Don't worry about winning, just play your games to improve. With this mindset, you're actually going to gain a lot more when you lose than when you win, and you're not going to be as bothered when you go on those loss streaks. Number 3, every game is winnable. Stop forfeiting, full stop. If you forfeit, or you even get the inclination to forfeit, your mentality is bad. I don't care if you're 4 goals down, you're not going to forfeit. I don't care if your teammate screws up, you're not going to forfeit. The only times you should be forfeiting is when you literally have a teammate who is intentionally throwing. Some of the best games are the ones where you actually make comebacks, and they can often be the best for learning, so stick them out and try your hardest. Number 4, don't go autopilot. If you're turning your brain off mid-game and just functioning based on habits, you're going to suffer and become hard stuck. Unless you're already SSL, you cannot go autopilot because you've got too much to be thinking about during the game. Consciously ground yourself throughout the game, and a great way to do this in my opinion is to actually commentate what you're doing. Just speak out loud. It might sound stupid, you might look stupid, but trust me, it's going to pay off when you realise that you're focused on what's happening in the game and you're present. Lastly, at number 5, we have take breaks. Taking breaks is very much slept on when it comes to gamers. Whenever you take a break, you're going to give yourself time to consolidate everything you've learned, and it can also be very healthy for your mentality. Don't be afraid to take a day off playing and do something a little bit more relaxing. If you're losing, just stop playing and go practice. Or even go touch some grass if you want to be adventurous. Well guys, that about wraps it up. I've given you every single thing you need to reach Supersonic Legend, and now it's up to you to put it into practice. Like, subscribe, and join the SSL Academy Discords. Also, check out my coaching if you're interested in getting replay analysis. I'll see you later.